All right, Stokastic, here we go. It's your old pal Emac coming to you on a Sunday evening. Sadness in my heart. My beloved Seahawks lost there. That was a survivor team. I was telling Greg, unfortunately, I bet against the 49ers with my other survivor pick 'em. That lost, and then Arizona. So all three of my survivors are out. I had a 3% chance of winning our pool because I had 3 entries left and there was 100 entries. Not to be this year. I won it the Tom Brady Super Bowl year. So that was a cool $2,000. But woe is me, Greg. Woe is me. At least the Huskies won. We've got the Mariners tonight. And we've got Sunday night football. This is going to be a fun one here. Although, can it top the 40-40 tie of last week? Can it top Thursday night football? We shall see. We shall see. Do you have any bad beats, any good wins? How was your day?
So DFS I did well, betting I did not do well. Worst beat of all of them. We were talking a little bit before the show started about the Titans defense and how they got credit with a touchdown for DFS. But I don't know if you saw it, Emac, I had a touchdown. I only had 2 touchdown bets for this week. One of them was Slayton. He got hurt. The other one, I had DeMarcado to score a touchdown. I don't know if you're aware of what he did today.
I saw he had two carries for like 80 yards.
He did the Adonai Mitchell deal where he ran for 80 yards. And as he's about to cross the goal line, he throws the ball away, goes out of the back of the end zone for a touchback. That was a very bad beat. I did have a, so it was a shitty bet because I made the bet early in the week thinking he was going to be the starting running back for the Cardinals, and he was not. But with that said, still a bad beat because he basically scored the touchdown but threw it away. So that was a very bad beat for me. That was very annoying.
That is a rough one. I'm dropping the link in the chat here to the free Stokastic showdown breakdown here. I see someone asking, can we talk a little FanDuel? Why, yes, we will. But I want you to know I spend 3.5 hours writing these articles with an eye towards DraftKings and FanDuel. I rank every player in the player pool. I tell you if we're going to start them on, or if they're better on DraftKings or FanDuel. Pour my heart and soul into these things. And I feel that it's the most comprehensive article out there for showdowns, and it's free. So, guys, check that out. Follow me on Twitter at EmacDFS so you can always spot it. But it's always going to be on the NFL homepage each day. Whew. This is going to be an interesting game here, Greg. We've got, is it communism? Is it socialism? Pretty much the passing games for both teams. It's kind of like everybody gets a turn. Running backs for New England, similar situation. Things are consolidated there with Buffalo. We've got an old kicker. We've got a young kicker. I've got a puppy whining from across the hallway here because she's mad I put her in her crate. It's good times. What is your initial take on this game? You've got New England on the road in Orchard Park taking on the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, so my initial take, which is also going to be my final take, is that I think the Bills win this game, but I think it should stay relatively competitive. I do actually have a bet on the Patriots plus 7.5 for tonight. But yeah, on the whole, I mean, the Bills are the superior team in pretty much everything. They've got Josh Allen. That's always going to be the equalizer for a lot of the games they play in as well. I do fully expect them to win, but I think the game should be relatively competitive, at least hopefully competitive.
There is only one undefeated team left after Philadelphia lost this afternoon, and that would be the Buffalo Bills. Last year in Week 16, a rookie named Drake May almost beat the Bills there. It was a 24-21 game, and then New England ended up beating the Bills in Week 18. May played one series, and then it was backup versus backup pretty much across the board. So the one thing we can say about Drake May is he's pretty composed. And part of my assessment was I called him in the article a Josh Allen dollar store version because he's very similar. He consolidates a ton of the running game this year. He said he was going to be mindful about running more this season, and he has already. He has I don't have my notes up, but I think he has like some insane number, like 34 carries or something through 4 weeks. Last year in 12 starts and a couple backup appearances, I think he only had 54 carries. So he is pacing for a decent year. Has already got a couple touchdowns. So he is kind of the New England offense. We'll break down if there are others that we should want to look at in particular. Good luck to us guessing who those are going to be. But start us off with the quarterbacks here. We've got the reigning NFL MVP. Certainly looks like Allen could be there's a long season ahead of us, but with Lamar Jackson being injured, Allen is definitely the front runner. I think I saw him as almost even money to win the MVP. I think that's a little bit egregious when you think about all the different injuries that could happen or at other happenstance and circumstances. Now, the thing about Allen is for the last this year and then last year, they said, hey, we're going to limit his running. We don't want him taking those big hits. I mean, remember, he's coming around on the 11 keeper and just getting beat to hell by the linebackers. So they don't want to do that. But wait, what do you think of coaches, Greg? They're damn dirty liars. Nothing but. So last year, even though he was more selective with his running, Allen still ran for 531 yards. That was more than the year prior. This year he's pacing to run for 680 yards. Now, that's going to change. The weather's going to get colder, tougher competition, more games in our data set. But he is already, on pace to just shatter his career numbers for running, even though they said he wasn't going to. And this is with James Cook, who's in the backfield here. How many teams you want to make without Josh Allen is the big question for tonight.
Yeah, so if you just look at the aggregate ownership that we got to Josh Allen in the Sims here without making any kind of adjustments, and the real question here is just what do you do with him relative to his ownership, right? Because none of us are going to say that Josh Allen is somebody to avoid in Showdown or anything like that. If you're playing cash games, he's the best overall play on the slate. And for tournaments, he is as well. The question is just how much of him do we want to play? And without making any adjustments to the Sims, Emac, he's showing up in 43% of lineups in the captain spot and 46% of lineups in the flex, which here's some math for you guys. That means 99% of lineups have Josh Allen here. Just based on what our data is, it seems like he is somebody who should be in just about every single lineup. He's the best overall captain option if you're playing on DraftKings. He's the best overall MVP option if you're playing on FanDuel. I'd rather differentiate my lineups elsewhere than hope that Josh Allen isn't one of, like the 6 or so high scoring players in the game.
Yeah, this is we've talked about it before on these shows. It kind of like Lamar Jackson really set the stage in his first couple seasons of just sort of breaking the showdown format, and we see that with the running quarterbacks. Josh Allen is up there now. It's very, very hard to go without them. It feels like his bad games or the games where he's not going to be running appear to be the outliers at this point. The other thing I found interesting here, and then we'll talk about Drake May a little bit more, but I read a couple articles out there that said, if Allen has a good game, he'll bring along 1 or 2 other players. Really? We're going to say that. I don't know how that happens through luck, through variance, but last year, 5 receivers had more than 85 yards in a single game. Just 5 across the entire season. That's crazy. Nobody had a multi-touchdown game outside of Cook. So when Cook, in the games where he caught his 2 touchdown passes throughout the season and combined those with some rush, he had 16 rushing touchdowns. Yeah, I guess he came along for the ride, but he got there more or less on himself. It's incredibly hard to pick who you want to choose. The top 4 target earners all have like between 18 and 23 targets this season. Randos have the touchdowns. Outside of chaos happening, which this is the NFL any given Sunday, you can't pinpoint one person that Allen is going to bring along with him. He plays no favorites anymore now that Steph Diggs is going to be on the other side of the field.
Yeah, and by the way, there is a lot of situations where it's difficult to parse what to make of the usage, what to make of things, snap count, targets, all of that. Buffalo really spreads the ball out as far as the pass catchers go, which you had mentioned there before. But then also, you got the Patriots running back situation where they got 3 guys running the ball out of the backfield. And then on the Bills side of the game, James Cook, who's been one of the best fantasy running backs we've had in the league, you get the coach speak throughout the year where they say, hey, we think we've been using James Cook a little bit too much this year. We want to start easing off his workload going forward so we know he's going to be healthy for the playoffs. So I think there is a ton of uncertainty at all different kinds of spots for this game. The place where we do know there's certainty is the two quarterbacks, Josh Allen, Drake May. We feel pretty good about their fantasy production, but the guys around them, it's pretty tricky for tonight, Emac.
All right, I see my grandson is in the chat. Notorious Fantasy. Are we going to get a Dawson Knox touchdown? Oh, that warmed my heart. We got to do a couple primetime shows, he and I together in years past when we got to tout Dawson Knox. But yeah, this is just kind of one of those crazy situations. The other interesting thing about James Cook, in counting the playoffs, in his last 22 games, he has scored a touchdown in 18 of them. And in those 18 games, he scored a total of 29 touchdowns. Crazy. A 3-touchdown game in the playoffs. This is just a very interesting situation here. So those are, if they want to take it easy with him, we'll see. They've hardly used the other guys in the backfield. Circling back here to Drake May, how do you feel about his rushing opportunities tonight? The Bills are they're missing a few key contributors on defense, so that could open a few things up, I think.
Yeah, so to me, the key is for Showdown is just he is a quarterback who is willing to run the football, which is almost in itself enough for somebody to be a really strong option at the flex spot or the captain spot for Showdown. Same deal you see here, where we're getting to a lot of Josh Allen. Drake May also shows up in a bunch of lineups. So overall, the two quarterbacks making up more than half of our quarterback exposure. And so far, overall for the season, through 4 games, 24 rush attempts for Drake May. So you're looking at 6 rush attempts per game, 2 touchdowns. So he's scoring half a rushing touchdown per game. That's a lot of volume running the ball as a quarterback. And then when you consider some of the passing upside as well, yeah, I think that Josh Allen, Drake May, especially when we talk about all of the uncertainty with the skill position players and what they could potentially look like from a workload standpoint, Josh Allen and Drake May are pretty clear. I'm not breaking news here. The ownership dictates this as well. This is what the field is doing. They're the top 2 plays overall in the game pretty easily.
Indeed. All right, so we've made that very clear. That they're number 1 and number 2. I'm assuming that that Cook is going to be number 3 for you. How many of our top lineups have all 3 of those guys in there? Are we finding enough differentiation? Or I guess we will, but it's going to be dart throw differentiation, because how do we trust anybody?
Let me set up a filter here and see how many top lineups have all 3. Just based on like initial looking at exposures, it's probably something like 10% of lineups have all 3 or something like that. But let's see. I'll make a filter here. All right, so lineup contains Cook, and lineup contains May, and lineup contains Allen. How many of them are there? What's your guess, Emac?
I'm going to say 40%.
Oh, wow. All right. I
don't know that there's an easy way to tell.
There's a good chunk. It's not quite 40%, but it's a lot, though. There's a lot of them.
Sorry, I should have known we would have the answer before doing that. But what you guys got to see Greg do there is sort of a sorting process, if you will, with the sim. So you don't want to mess around with the projections, the field size, etc. But once you've run them and you have your pool, now is when we start sorting, picking what we want, putting in ROI boosts, ownership caps, etc. And if you want to find specific lineups, like I want this guy but not this guy, or vice versa, you can use the filters to pick those out. So that was
it's about
Greg is the maestro, I'm sorry, Josh is the maestro of our single lineup sim. Greg is the maestro of the full package, the full suite here. So
this is of our top 150 lineups, about 15% of them have Josh Allen, Drake May, and James Cook. And
so I'm over exuberant there.
It's just a salary constraint. There's still, I mean, you look at our exposures, there are 3 most rostered players in the captain spot. They are, the only 3 players that we're getting to more than 10% of. In the flex, there also are 3 most exposed players in the flex. It's just there's only so many lineups you can make with all 3 of them due to salary constraints, unless you're doing something, totally crazy.
All right. Brian Brinkley, if you do a screenshot, send that into support at awesemo.com. We can help you out, get that posted, etc. if you're not on Twitter. But yes, we want to celebrate that. So send that in. We'll give you a shout out there. All right. Let's see. Oh, we have a super chat here. This is from the Morgan Wiper. When you win as often and as much as he has, you get to be the of your name. So there are no other Morgan Wipers. They are all just worthless.
Yeah, but, it's like Bruce Buffer has a handful of fighters that he introduces as the one, the only. Like Alex Pereira last night, he gets introduced as the one, the only in his fighter introduction. John Jones gets introduced as the one, the only. I think George St. Pierre did. There's only been a handful of fighters that he introduces as the one, the only. And Morgan Wiper is working himself into that rarefied air around these parts, being the one, the only Morgan Wiper who just wants to empathize with everybody who had Arizona in Survivor. How about some of us who just bet DeMarcado to score a touchdown today? Had them in multiple 10K and 1K Survivors. Let's all pour out a 40 and then love you, Emac DFS.
All right. Much appreciated. Much appreciated. Okay, so let's dive into the scary part here. Let's try to parse out what we may be able to get from the running game here from rounding out Buffalo. You've got, it used to be kind of I don't really want to say the 3-headed monster, but it was about 55% snap share last year for Cook, and he was just getting there on efficiency. He's up to a little over 60% per game, if I remember correctly, and continuing his touchdown ways. However, Ray Davis, 1 rushing attempt in the last 2 weeks, 11 total in the 4 games. And then Ty Johnson, he's supposed to be the 3rd down back. He has 5 targets, 1 catch, 8 carries. So there seems to be what looked like a loose. All right, Davis is going to be kind of the fresh legs. Ty Johnson is going to be the 3rd down back, and Cook is going to be the between the 20 guys and the touchdown guy. It's all kind of going to Cook. Plus, we still have Josh Allen looming. If we look at their counterparts with New England, it is even more murky. You've got Mr. Butterfingers, Ramondre Stevenson, who had 2 fumbles in week 3, continues to get the lead role here. Travion Henderson, the rookie, was a 2nd rounder there. He has not really flashed, and he was very, very good along with his teammate Quinshon Judkins at Ohio State last year. But Judkins clearly looks to be the more NFL-ready guy. We know that Henderson should get there. He was one of the best pass protectors in college. At some point, that it will click. Maybe it will all come together. Maybe it will be a Marvin Harrison Jr. moment, as you have referenced on some of your shows this week. But it gets a little tricky waiting for that to happen. He has just 7 targets through the first 4 games. Antonio Gibson had his lone target back in week 3. So he's kind of the guy on the outs, but he's still in there returning kicks, etc. But Stevenson leads the way with 9 targets. So how do you want to parse out some salary disparity here for the Buffalo running backs?
Yeah, sure. So as far as the running backs go, if you have the ability to pay up for James Cook, then yeah, definitely makes sense. With that said, I prefer both the quarterbacks, Drake May and Josh Allen, as multiplier options to James Cook. I do have a little bit concerned that his workload could decrease a little bit going forward, just based on what some of the coach speak has been. But it's not enough to get me off him or anything. It's just enough to me prefer the quarterbacks a little bit. If somebody said they could only pay up for 2 out of the 3 pay up guys, I would recommend Josh Allen and Drake May prior to getting to James Cook, just for that reason. What's really interesting, or more interesting to me, is can we find value with some of the backup running backs for the Buffalo Bills because of the situation where we have the potential for there to be limited or less work out of James Cook from what there's been before. Ray Davis, he's $400, so He's somebody who is a viable punt option. You got Ty Johnson. He is $1,400. That also makes him a viable punt option. Between the two, I slightly prefer Ty Johnson. He's been getting a little bit more work of the two backup running backs. So with that in mind, if there is a little bit less touches or less playing time that goes to James Cook, I think it's more likely to go to Ty Johnson than it is to go to Ray Davis. So both of them in play at really cheap price tags. I prefer Johnson now.
All right, you guys heard it. Greg prefers the Johnson. Okay. Wide receivers. So it is a literal 5-man rotation with New England. It appears that at the bottom, it's going to be third-round rookie Kyle Williams and then slot guy Pop Douglas, Demario Douglas, for those of you that are looking for his name. We saw those guys kind of invert over the first 4 games of the season. Douglas was down to just 16% play participation last week, while Kyle Williams was at a high of 29%. That's not really great. Stephon Diggs, he is coming off that knee injury from last year. The team has slowly been bringing him along, but we've seen him go from 41 to 52 to 53 to 64% play participation. And Kayshon Boutte, who is played 80% of the snaps in week 1, he's kind of settled into probably 60, 65%. Maybe he'll get around 70%. So it looks like he's kind of the, I guess, wide receiver 2. At some point, he should be overtaken there by Diggs, but Diggs is kind of aging out just a little bit, but he's still the most talented receiver on this team. And then in the middle of it all, it is Mac Hollins, the Remember Me game for Mac Hollins. That's a Remember Me game for Stephon Diggs as well. Mac Hollins running a lot of empty routes, but every now and then he finds his way into the end zone. How do you feel about this? Is this this whack-a-mole situation?
Yeah, so as far as the Patriots pass catchers go, do you want to start with the Patriots, the Bills? I assume the
Patriots, please.
All right, yeah.
Bills are a little more consolidated.
See here in the Sims, actually not really getting to very much of the Patriots pass catchers. Stephon Diggs shows up a little bit here. And then you've got, if you want to consider Hunter Henry in the mix as well, he shows up a little bit. But that's, we got Stephon Diggs in 36% of lineups, Hunter Henry showing up in 22% of lineups. Who's the next most rostered pass catcher from New England? Yeah, it's Boutte here in just 10% of lineups. One thing that does hurt with some of these pass catchers for New England, it's not only do they spread out the football, where I think there was probably some thought this year that Stephon Diggs could be that number 1 alpha wide receiver for them, and he just hasn't been that guy. So you've got Stephon Diggs here. He's still $7,800. Hunter Henry is $7,600 at tight end. And then you look at some of the guys who would, traditionally be cheaper, and it's still, Boutte is $5,400. It's not overwhelmingly cheap. Austin Hooper, we've known that for forever. New England is like to play multiple tight ends. Even with Belichick no longer here, you're still seeing Austin Hooper play alongside of Hunter Henry. And Hooper, he's $2,400. It's not like you're getting a tight end who's like $600, a secondary tight end or something like that. So when you consider that we really like spending up for some of the studs in this game, Emac, and the 2 quarterbacks, it's kind of hard to make space for Patriots pass catchers who are, frankly, a little bit overpriced for what a lot of the roles have been this year. The one exception, just relative to production, is Hunter Henry. But how much do we buy into his touchdown numbers for the year? Because it's not like he's going out and putting up massive volume games or anything like that. He's just finding the end zone. He has, last week he had 2 catches for 39 yards and a touchdown. He did have the one big game against the Steelers where he had 8 catches for 90 yards and 2 touchdowns. But in general, he's been a guy who he's averaging 50 yards per game this season. He's just scored 3 touchdowns in 4 games. So it seems he's pretty reliant on scoring touchdowns. And if he doesn't at a $7,600 price tag, he's probably not having a great game. So long story short, there aren't really any Bills pass catchers, there aren't any Patriots pass catchers that I want to be prioritizing tonight.
Yep, that absolutely makes sense. Good call out there on Austin Hooper. The 2 tight end sets have been, I think, around 30% or so of the time for the Patriots. That's partly due to the bottom of the barrel receivers they have there in their scrum of five, but they need to help out that semi-shaky offensive line. So as you mentioned, Hooper in his 9th season, he did make 2 Pro Bowls back in his Atlanta days. That was before the pandemic, which is 3 lifetimes ago in NFL terms. But he is still a capable pass catcher if he gets the ball. Henry is much more expensive, but he has kind of that safety valve role that he earned last year with May. If we look at the Buffalo side here, we can lump everybody together, including the tight ends. So the interesting thing about Dalton Kincaid and Dawson Knox is they're really not in direct competition with one another. It's the formations that determine who's going to be on the field, and they don't have a lot of overlap. So they're really not fighting each other for that tight end role. It's just how are the coaches calling the play. So Knox, obviously the much better blocker, capable receiver, had that magical year in the pandemic and in the year after, but he has kind of fallen well down the pecking order there. He only has a handful of targets. Kincaid, super expensive tonight, especially on DraftKings for his target share. And then you start to work in, is Shakir, is he the number one? Is Coleman the number one? Plus you still have Josh Palmer, Samuel is in there. Where are the chips falling as you've run your simulation here, Greg?
Sure. So as far as just specifically for the Bills pass catchers now?
Yes, please.
All right. Yeah. So just on the Bills pass catchers, it's sort of a similar story as the Patriots pass catchers, where obviously I get exposure to some of these guys, but it's nothing that I am prioritizing. There are some talking points out at the Patriots backfield when we talk about the New England running backs. But as far as the pass catchers go for Buffalo, let's see. The Sims are getting to, without making any adjustments, Shakir shows up the most in 26% of lineups. Who's the second most for Buffalo? Let's see. For the Bills pass catchers, yeah, second most is 18% of Dalton Kincaid. So looking at my lineups, I've got a handful of these guys like Joshua Palmer, Khalil Shakir. I'm getting to 15 to 20% of a handful of Bills pass catchers. But once again, not really prioritizing any of them, Emac. The ball gets spread out so much that this isn't where I am making or breaking my lineups. If I have to just pick one guy, because that's ultimately, at least part of what people want to hear from us. They want us to give out some sort of takes. If I'm just going one guy to recommend to everybody, it's going to be Keon Coleman, just because I do think he is the most talented of the Bills pass catchers and has the most upside. He's not been consistent overall this year. He wasn't consistent at all last year during his rookie season, although a lot of his rookie season he was just flat out not all that good. But this year we have seen the upside in terms of the game he had against the Ravens. He had 8 catches for 112 yards and a touchdown. That's the kind of ceiling that he has. It's just a lot of games the Bills haven't really needed to rely on their passing game. The one game they really actually had to was that opening game against the Ravens because they were playing from behind. But the Jets, they won via blowout. The games against the Dolphins, that game, it was competitive, but ultimately they still won by 10 points. They didn't have to throw the ball a ton. Then last week against the Saints, same sort of deal, like sort of competitive, but also didn't have to throw the ball a ton, win by 12 points. So in a game where I do think they're forced to throw the ball more frequently, I think Coleman is going to be their number one wide receiver this season, just because the one game we saw that happen, he was targeted 11 times, caught 8 of them for 112 yards. It's just the Bills are so good, and they have a fairly soft schedule this year. The division sucks. How often are they going to be in those games where they're really forced to throw the football? But push comes to shove, if I have to pick somebody, it's Coleman.
All right. Just drop that link to the free article there. Again, you might find a little bonus coupon if you look on that. We're always trying to find ways to give back to the community. So check that out. I've ranked every player in the player pool with comments, in addition to a team by team by position breakdown there. Why DraftKings keeps asking me for my location, and I'm sad, Greg, because I can't take advantage of the pick six offer that they are giving to everybody else, because pick six not available in Florida. But if you guys click through the link below us here and sign up for their pick six account, as soon as you put in $5, you play $5 in your pick six, they will give you another $50 to play in pick six. That is over there on DraftKings. Build out your card, have some fun. It's another way to take advantage of all the different knowledge and edges that are out there in DFS. Dead air. I didn't know where I was going with that one.
Okay, yeah, I thought you were gonna add more to it, but all good. Yeah, so
I painted myself into a corner, Greg. That's not good.
Yeah, I didn't know if you had more things to add. You were just it was you ran out of steam. It was bedtime for Emac in the mid sentence. It was he just powered down. It was the coffee, the caffeine, it all ran out at the same time.
Coffee is over. I haven't had dinner yet. I'm feeling a little peckish. So.
Our old pal Emac.
All right. Well, let's hit on defenses and kickers. Defenses, yeah, no, not really tonight. Yes, someone can get a splash play, scoop and score, pick six, etc. Bills Mafia will be in the house. Give a little bit of an edge there because May has some sack issues, so we want to take advantage of that. But the Bills, outside of a couple really good defensive linemen, defensive tackles to be more specific, they really don't have. They've got some holes, right? Their defense that was really good a couple years ago. All those guys tend to get contracts with other teams when their cheap deals are up. They get paid and they go elsewhere. But if we look at the kickers, we've got the old guy, Matt Prater, who is still holding down the job, waiting for Tyler Bass to come back. Prater was actually coaching high school football or middle school football. I forget which, when he got the call right before the season started. He's looked pretty good. He had the job with Arizona the last few years and then lost it due to injury, but he is still chugging along here at age 41. I believe he's made 8 of 9 of his field goals so far. On the other side, and I've already blanked on his name, I had to go look it up. Andy Borregales, rookie for New England. So this is his first primetime game. He was, let me get to my notes. I think he kicked for 4 years, if I remember correctly. Yeah, 4 years at the University of Miami. He was from Venezuela, and he led the ACC in field goal attempts and makes his junior year. And then last year, his senior year, he led the ACC in extra point makes and attempts. So it was a 6th-round selection. So he is not quite in that echelon of some of the other newer kickers that have come on, the Josh Cardys, the Aubreys, etc. But he is still pretty solid in and of his own right, just doesn't have that much experience under his belt and nowhere near what Matt Prater has. So both those guys, I think, are viable. And as our simulations will show, they tend to be a little bit underrepresented in tournaments, even though for the last 5 or 6 years, we've been hitting on that. Even from the days before we had Sims, and it was the great brain of Alex Baker, Osimo himself, giving us advice. He was calling that out. So that kind of wraps up all of our players here. We have 18 minutes until kickoff here, Greg. How are you feeling? Feeling a little nervous? Feeling on edge? You ready to win?
I don't think I've ever. Do you get nervous before slate starting, Mac?
I only get nervous if I don't have my lineups in.
I could see panic set in with you sometimes when you're trying to get everything uploaded. No, I've never been nervous to put money on the line for anything in my entire life. I think part of it too is like I've never gone into a slate and been, oh, here I've got 50% of my net worth on the line or anything. Like maybe that's part of it too. But no, I'm certainly not nervous for a Bills Patriots Week 5 Sunday night football game. I do want to add that kickers have generally been performing really well on showdowns, have been underrepresented by the field for years now. And very regularly, you see in our tools that they recommend getting overweight to the field on kickers. And you'll see for today's slate, Matt Prater, he's showing up without any adjustments in a third of lineups in the Sims. You got Borregales on the other side showing up about even with the field and around 20% of lineup. So our data does slightly prefer Matt Prater at 5K over Borregales. But overall, I think both of the kickers are pretty solid options. As far as the defenses go, one thing of interest is I know people aren't going to want to play the Patriots defense. They're just not going to want to. The Patriots defense going up against the Bills offense, going up against Josh Allen. Here's something to think about, though. We have them projected for 3.5 fantasy points. That's reasonable, right, Emac? Like, would you look at 3.5 fantasy points and say, like, Oh, like that is an over projection of the Patriots defense. 3.5. It's a pretty low number. It's pretty reasonable. At a 3.5 fantasy point projection, we get them in 15% of lineups when they're pulling 7% ownership. So I do think they're a viable contrarian option to differentiate some lineups here. And once again, the projection is 3.5. Like this is not a very high expectation, and a 3.5 fantasy point projection is enough to get the Patriots in 2x the amount of lineups that the field has. So I do like the Patriots defense a little bit here. One other thing that we didn't talk about yet, we talked about the Bills backfield. We didn't talk about the Patriots backfield. My favorite value option overall in the game, Emac, is Ramondre Stevenson. We have heard throughout the season that Ramondre Stevenson, fumble issues. This could lead to less playing time for him. It's going to be time for Travion Henderson to get more touches. To an extent, Henderson played a little bit more last week, but it's not like the workload is totally dried up for Stevenson. And because the belief is that Henderson is going to play more than Stevenson going forward, you got Henderson is $6,800. Stevenson is $4,800. So Henderson is $2,000 more expensive. But Stevenson has still played more overall on the year. And even last week, when we saw the more elevated workload for Travion Henderson, I still don't even know if that was by design or just kind of what the game dictated, because the Patriots won that game 42-13. It was so non-competitive that it just kind of made sense that Henderson, as your second-round rookie, would play more at the tail end of the game. Stevenson still had 9 rushing attempts to 7 for Henderson. Then in the passing game, Stevenson was targeted how many targets? He was targeted once to 2 targets for Henderson. So overall, it was still more playing time for Stevenson, even though Henderson was the one who was getting the garbage time run at the end of the game. And now when you factor in that Henderson is 50% more expensive and their ownership is pretty comparable, I'd rather take the salary savings with Henderson. It is a very congested backfield for the Patriots. Henderson, Gibson, Stevenson, they're all playing. But I still expect Stevenson to be the guy who gets the most work out of the backfield, and he's modestly priced at $4,800. So on a slate that is pretty hard to find value, Stevenson's my favorite running back to get value from out of the Patriots backfield.
I would concur with that. Not much to add at all. The interest, now my dog is really going nuts there behind me. Hopefully you guys can't hear that because she is angry that I put her in her crate, and I should have figured out a way to put a noise machine in there. You know what? I was 8-31 in cash games today for the main slate. I just dropped 10 more head-to-head lineups. Team free money, just $1, giving money away there on DraftKings. Username Emac. Take my money. It's yours. I am just an easy mark. Go grab that. Did you have any wagers for tonight's game? I noticed you've been posting a lot of them over on Tails.
Yes, I believe. Let me pull up Tails right here. I am fairly sure that I still have some pending wagers today that I posted. So let's see. Of the ones that I have up on Tails right now, I will share it. So if you guys go to Tails, by the way, Tails, 100% totally free to go use Tails. Go follow myself. Go follow Emac is over on Tails now as well. Emac's doing his DFS breakdowns. So if you guys like Emac's written content, you should certainly go ahead and follow that. But
yes, all baseball has moved to Tails for the rest of the playoffs. No more article, but it's still free. Top stacks, top pitcher, wager of the day. That is free on Tails.
Let's see. What are some of the ones that are still? Oh, I know one. I had a Hunter Henry bet.
Ooh,
That's the one bet that I've left. I'm sure that if we go to the picks feed and search for Henry, that it'll show up there. All right. So this is something else you could do as well on the free picks feed. Is if you're ever looking for, say, like a Patriots game for Sunday Night Football, you can just go in here and you can type in Patriots. But I'll type in Henry just because I remember that there was a Hunter Henry bet I had. I just don't remember exactly what the line was that I had on Hunter Henry. But if I scroll down a little bit, you guys will see all of the different Hunter Henry involved bets here. Actually, a lot of people, different bets that are involving Hunter Henry for tonight. Here's mine. I bet Hunter Henry for over 3.5 receptions tonight, Emac. That's the bet that I have. Hunter Henry over 3.5 receptions. That is my one pending bet. So far, this has been the worst betting week for me of the entire football season. No thanks to people like Amari DiMarcado. Or also, I'll tell you one that was also really annoying for me. If you watch the Sunday morning game, I had under 36.5 points and the Browns plus 3.5. So lost both of those in the final 20 seconds of the game. But yeah, last one to make the day a sour day end on a positive note. I have Hunter Henry over 3.5 receptions tonight.
All right. I like that. I just needed one more half PPR fantasy point from Devon Achan to cash a 50 into $600 pick'em card. Did not happen. Very, very sad. Very, very sad. That was Monday. So hopefully I get some fun going here tonight. We are 11 minutes away from kickoff. So if you guys have not submitted your lineups, you're going to want to do that very, very soon. I'm favoriting my 50 here, doing a little massaging. Who did you end up? Did you go overweight on Josh Allen at 38% right now for the MVP spot or the captain spot on DraftKings?
I did not. I played more of him in the flex. I tried to differentiate my lineups by mixing in some different guys into the captain spot. So still on the whole, the one who I have the most exposure to is Josh Allen. But ultimately, I do not have him overweight to the field. I don't have, you'd have to have him in almost half of your lineups to be substantially overweight to the field. By the way, shout out to the logo. It says that he took down the Showdown London game this morning. So shout out to you. Congrats on that. Here are a couple of contrarian ones that I went to get a little bit different. I am overweight to the field on a Drake May, but he's not all that different. Here's some super low-owned guys who I'm overweight to the field to in the multiplier spot. Bills defense. I got 7% of the Bills defense. They're only expected for 2% ownership in the captain spot. That's one direction I went to. Something that we could see happen in this game is, let's say, a game script where the Bills get up by a couple of touchdowns or something like that in the later stages of the game. Then you're going to have Drake May. Drake May is good for 1 to 2 totally moronic, brain-dead plays each week. And he is definitely live to do that more frequently in a game where the Patriots are potentially trailing, because what happens then in the later stages of the game, now Drake May is going to have to drop back to pass. That's going to open him up for sack opportunities, interceptions, pick sixes, those kinds of things. So Bills defense, that's one of my contrarian options. Ramondre Stevenson, for some of the reasons I said before. Just I still think he's going to be the number one guy out of the Patriots backfield, and I think the price tag on him is favorable. And then Keon Coleman, just because I think he is the Bills pass catcher with the most upside. So all of those guys I have in 5+% of lineups in the multiplier spot, and they're all 2 to 3% on those guys that I brought up. So for sure, the best overall guys are Drake May, Josh Allen, and James Cook, but they're all super popular. I want to find a way to get some good lineups with players who are not the chalkiest players on the slate, and those are a couple of the ones I landed on. Unfortunately, none of them are going to be super awe-inspiring, but that's just kind of what happens when you go a little bit contrarian at times. Is there anybody that you went to be contrarian in either the MVP or the captain spot?
So I'm built out 51 lineups because I've got my cash game lineup, but the New England Patriots made it into one of my 50, which was a little bit surprising. Buffalo is in 2, and then I've got some Keon Coleman, a little bit of the kickers, 2 lineups with each of the kickers at captain, and then it's mostly those other guys. I did come in under on Josh Allen in the captain, over on May, and a little bit over on Cook, similar to your positioning there. It's too hard to get over on Josh Allen there in a meaningful way. So not fading him, just putting him into the flex spot. And let's see, Allen is, if I can spell his difficult name, he is on 89% of my lineups.
Do you find it harder to spell his first name or his last name?
I was told there would be no math today, Greg.
Fair enough. Yeah, so once again, if you guys look at some of the Sims exposures here's what is showing up without making any adjustments in the captain spot. The Sims are actually liking Stephon Diggs as a contrarian captain. So there's somebody else if you guys want to consider a 2-3% owned guy. Stephon Diggs showing up in 8% of lineups. Is there anybody, Emac, who you are underweight to the field to, who you want to shout out to potentially ruin you tonight?
Yes. It is going to be, let me scroll down here. James Cook, I'm about even with the field. I am under on Travion Henderson in the flex, but I did get double his captain exposure there, which is not much. I am well under Keon Coleman in the flex at 10%. We have him at 24%. I'm under on Dalton Kincaid. So again, I'm just the touchdown variance is so much, and that's what's going to drive what happens with the Bills there. So I tried to just come in under on each of them, and that worked so far. What'll happen on the actual field? I don't know, because it's any given Sunday.
Yeah, I'm on the same page as you in terms of being underweight to the field on Dalton Kincaid. Another guy who's been really, really touchdown dependent this year, and he's priced fairly expensively. Dalton Kincaid has one game with 50-plus receiving yards this year. It was a couple weeks ago against the Dolphins. He had 5 catches for 66 yards. He's been a great fantasy tight end because he got 3 touchdowns for the first 4 games of the year, but he was targeted twice last week. He caught 1 for 28 yards, and it was a touchdown. You look at his game week 1 against the Ravens. He was targeted 4 times. He caught 4 passes, 48 yards, and a touchdown. It's like, how many times is this guy going to have a game where he has 30, 40 yards and a touchdown on just a couple of receptions? Eventually, the touchdown variance isn't going to all go his way. So as far as Dalton Kincaid goes, I am not getting to very much of him. So if he once again goes out and has like 30 yards and a touchdown. Honestly, 30 yards and a touchdown probably won't even kill us anyway, but that's kind of been what his lines have been overall for the season. As far as punt options go, because that's something else that people usually like to think about. If you're playing somebody who's sub 1K, I think Ray Davis is the best guy for going to, like a $200-$400 guy. Said at the top of the show, my overall favorite Bills cheap running back. I mean, there's only 2 of them to talk about here. I do prefer Tyler Johnson to Ray Davis, but if we're comparing Ray Davis to all of the other sub 1K guys, Ray Davis is the one who I want to be going to. And that's how our data sees it too. Ray Davis actually showing up in 21% of lineups in the sim. So a pretty good amount of exposure to him. And once again, makes sense with some of the coach speak where they said that they would like to potentially try to limit the workload of James Cook here going forward. So a $400 Ray Davis, he is the super cheap guy who makes the most sense if you're looking in that $200, $400, $600 range.
All right, we are 4 minutes away from lock here. Just real quick, we talked about DraftKings Pick 6 and how you can turn $5 into $50 there just by making a $5 Pick 6 card there, and that will unlock $50 on the DK Pick 6. Can only be used on DK Pick 6. Please see which states are available. It is not everywhere that they have DFS. We are looking at Curtis Samuel. I just say no to Curtis Samuel. He's so far down the rotation. Keon Coleman has made strides this year and is a little bit more trustworthy than he was, especially at the early part of last year in his rookie season. So, Curtis Samuel's just been dealing with so many injuries, and it's so crowded. We need someone to be hurt before he's going to be elevated up that totem pole. So I would say no to that. Unless you're building. By the way, to
Mike, you said so much for talking FanDuel. All this applies to both sites for the one game slates. Like it's still the same guys, like the quarterback showing up the most with James Cook. It's the same deal for Showdown. This isn't like Thursday Night Football where Mac Jones was $1,000 and we had to do like 2 separate shows. We're breaking it up. Like here's FanDuel. Here's how we're approaching Mac Jones being $1,000. It's the same. The top guys on FanDuel are the same as the top guys on DraftKings.
Sure. Here's some real quick call-outs. Again, this is right from my article from where I rank all the player pools. Keon Coleman is better than Shakir on FanDuel for the $2,600 discount. Shakir is only $200 more than Coleman on DraftKings. So I would go with Coleman there. We know that Josh Palmer is cheap on both sides. If you're looking to punt, he's not as cheap as, if I remember correctly, as Samuel, but I would prefer him over Samuel. He's just $3,000 on DraftKings. That's a nice deal there, expecting 3.3 targets. FanDuel, a little tougher in half PPR at $5,000, but he's in play. He was my number 9 ranked player. Dalton Kincaid, just massively expensive on both sides. Called that out there to be careful for. So there's lots of ways that you can get knowledge here for FanDuel. The other thing that's changed that makes this so much more of a crossover now is they've added that multiplier, that 50% multiplier to the salary on FanDuel. Previously, they did not have it. They multiplied the points for their MVP slot, but not the salary. So the crossover is better. Now they have different salaries for each of the guys, but the strategy is a little bit more similar now than what it had been in the previous half dozen years.
Yeah. And other than that, Emac, any final thoughts for the game tonight?
No, my dog's gonna kill me. Can you hear her?
I cannot hear her,
Oh,
but
God.
I'll do the I'll do the phone numbers.
Yeah,
and then we
I
can
was
get
gonna
out of
say.
here.
I was gonna say.
New
throw some
DraftKings
numbers
customers play $5 in first pick sets and get $50 in bonus picks. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER because help is available for problem gambling. Just call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. 18 plus, valid only where Pick 6 operates. See dkng.co/pickstates.com. Void in New York and Ontario and where prohibited. Eligibility restrictions do apply. One per new DraftKings customer, $5 in first pick set to receive a max $50 issued as non-withdrawable bonus picks that expire in 14 days. This offer ends on October 13th at 11:59 p.m. Terms and conditions can be found at pick6.draftkings.com/promos. This is sponsored by DraftKings. Good night and good luck, everybody. See you guys back here tomorrow.